I'm getting a message from a friend of mine who's trying to tune in. It says there's nothing to click on to activate anything.
It, we just connected, so.
Oh, okay.
It should pop up. I'm gonna verify here.
So it just activated?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
trying to pull it up. Yep. So
Okay.
on a laptop or in the Facebook app, on Scarritt Bennett's Facebook page, it says is live now, and there's a little link if you want.
Okay.
I think you can even send via AirDrop. But yeah, it should here. So on the Scarritt Bennett Facebook page, the top post is currently the little.
Okay, so go to the website or go to the FB.
Go to Facebook and then search Scarritt Bennett Center.
Okay.
And it should be their top post right now. And here, actually, I'm going to leave a comment, and that way we can test.
Yeah, I'm not
to see
seeing
if this
it.
will work.
I'm on my Facebook, but getting a lot of everything else. Let me see.
Just go to Scarritt Bennett.
Can you search Scarritt Bennett Center in the search bar?
Oh, sir. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Gotcha.
Excellent. Oh, yep, okay, so the comments are gonna pull up here, so we, at the very least, I'll be able to, if anything comes up at the end where we can have a little moment.
Okay. And do you want me to even stay on this now, or is it even necessary?
Not necessary, it's gonna pop up on here, so at the end,
Cool.
I can just kind of communicate and read you the
Okay.
comments. Just sort of let me know whenever you wanna have that little,
Okay.
comment on it.
Just let me know when you want to start.
Let's start, I've got a little timer
Yeah.
down here so people can kind of tune
Joyce
in.
will introduce you.
So we'll start.
What's that?
Joyce will introduce you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll start right at 7, and then she'll do a real quick
Okay.
introduction.
How's it going, Jamie?
Yeah, let people know that I wear it.
There you go.
Okay. Welcome to Poets Corner once again here at Scarritt Bennett Center. We're very happy this week before Thanksgiving to have as our poet Dan Surface. Dan has written a couple of poetry books. He's a life coach, and he's a strong advocate to help those who are suffering from mental health illnesses. He also has recently started a discussion group for retired men entitled Refitting or Refiring Your Life. Dan is going to present, I'm sure, some very interesting poetry that will be challenging to us all. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for those that are here in the flesh, and for, I'm sure, the hundreds of thousands out there and across the world, globally tuning in. It is interesting, however, this pandemic has, while it's isolated us, technology, I know that I've got a friend, Harold Green in Mexico, who's listening in, and along with a number of friends and relations across the country, maybe even in the UK. So this is truly a global event. So if I can, for just a few minutes, I just wanted to say, Joyce mentioned that I'm a powerful advocate for people with mental illness, and because I'm challenged by it myself. And actually, the reason I got into writing poetry was because I wanted to put down on paper how depression made me feel, and it turned out to be very therapeutic, and it kind of opened me up to writing about all sorts of other things. So as we often find out, art can be very therapeutic for us, regardless of what troubles us. So I'll be reading actually some poems out of that section called My Mad Meditations, which is inspired by my mental illness. But I'm going to be reading from several of my collections, as well as some other poetry I haven't gotten organized enough to put into publication. So the first one I'm going to read is called Naturally. Wake up thinking about the old elm in the backyard, rising. Big green limbs appeal to our rooftop in spring, black filigree and winter night light. Tonight, on deck with a rich red and avo, smoke curling up into the lace of branches laid open to a summer moon. I watch while my family sleeps. Planted in the courtyard, our backyard, by the slave, then free gardener who worked next door at the big house after the war of northern aggression left this southern town. Buried seeds of persimmon, black walnut, magnolia, and sugar maple rose while he lived out his life in a small house behind the big one. We lost the persimmon to a wind shear. Sugar maple, now half of what it was. These losses and my elm gashed by storms in different utility crews wakes me tonight. Fear for my tree. Irreplaceable view. Reminder of other mortality. When what we cherish is lost, grief and change wash through in unkindly waves that leave us barren until the new space brings light in. This one I call Shazam. Jamie, my friend who's sitting right here supporting me, likes this poem, I know. Short and sweet. If I became small enough, I wouldn't be seen. So I wouldn't get hurt. So I became the shrinking boy. If I became someone else, I wouldn't be me. So I wouldn't get hurt. So I became the masked man. If I pretended I didn't need love, then I wouldn't need you. So I wouldn't get hurt. So I became the man of stone. I'm always struck by how we see old houses get torn down and new houses come up, and this inspired me to want to write a poem about that I call Tear Down. One day, this house will disappear. A neighbor driving by will see splintered wood, broken brick, perhaps a window frame, driveway to nowhere. Can you see the back door that never closed snugly to keep out the winter wind? Or coming around the scratched corner of oak floor where dogs and cats sought purchase? Can you hear the voices of family, joy and anger? They are gone to new families, little apartments, death, and a one-day drive-by. I guess like most poets, I love the moon. I write a lot about it. Its power, its magic, its mystery. This one I call Goodnight Moon, which is obviously plagiarized from a very popular story I read to my son, and was read to me. Conduct the waves, love the poets, songwriters, tender the lovers, fulfilled and scorned, play with the sleepy children, light the silent land, the man on watch at sea, bring the weary home, anticipate all inspiration, laughter, lamentation, rage, and howl. This big, busy moon, for now, nestles in the tall oak branches in my backyard, resting. I go outside a lot in nature. I love Radnor Lake. It's sort of my sanctuary, my church, and often come away inspired to write a poem, sometimes writing them in my head, while I'm still walking around in the hills. And this is one that I started thinking about as I was walking there a summer day and entertained by the butterflies and birds. And this is called In Living Color. I suggest Crayola add a new line, butterfly. But can they capture the colors of gossamer wing, swallowtail, and ruddy copper. This eastern peak sun awakens, warms them to dance before me. My ballerina spirit leaps into the performance, exquisite as their flight. Like every poet, I'm sure Jamie agrees with me, anyone else who writes poetry, it's so frustrating to try and find the right words to express how you feel, how you're experiencing life, a particular moment. So this is when I wrote, thinking about that, called Lament. While I was sitting there trying to write a poem, I wrote this poem. Try to bring the inside outside. Is this fool's prayer? Or restore the spider's silk? Divine wisps upon this face after heavy passing. Brute in the woods learning softer moves as the leaf breathes, as the heron waits. Floating man trusting the lake as the sun warms, as the water laps. Wild man sensing the pulse as the wolf sings, as the owl strikes. An erupting being in of these searching words. And again, this is something that came from walking around Radnor. I particularly love fall, not only for the leaves, but the light and how it casts itself upon the hills, the trees, the leaves. It's a very unique kind of light in the fall. So this is called, appropriately, Lights. September sun brings a different light because it knows the leaves, grass will be dying. Is this a crying that brightens the land? Revelation of astonishing colors, tears for the beauty like petals falling. Do I cherish most this season's light, shedding tree, wildflower withering, in autumn of my living? See my reflection in the blaze of leaf before turning toward death, like dying blaze before terrible, beautiful turning in last pulse of life. Sense the turning, falling away of what no longer serves, new light in these watery eyes. And I said I love nature and I love to learn from nature. Actually, this particular book, Gatekeepers, is about all of the wonderful pieces of creation, whether it's an animal or an insect or a tree or a leaf, that are a gatekeeper that open me up to my own nature and connect me in a divine way. And so this is really coming from that place. I call this Lost and Found. I sit with these walls, chair, hardwood, glass, and paint. All come from her, all her children, gifts. Her spirit emanates from what surrounds me. Rhythm roils in stone beneath, gusts through metal chime, midnight creak of board or wall. Sit in her mountains, mind quiet, heart laid open, She's bedazzling life, aspens, blaze of butterflies above rushing water. All of her children come to welcome the found one. Does the heart stay open to the lullaby? Yes, there it is, in breath, vast internal rivers, song of blood. Go there, orphan. Oh, this is one I love. Takes me back to my childhood and perhaps yours as well. I call it metamorphosis. Let me parch my... Metamorphosis. Some words delightful to say. Pollywog is a favorite. And abracadabra. Take me back to summer and the neighborhood pond. And smaller feet in oozy cool mud, squat watching slippery sailors muster in the shadows. Before bringing one into my dad's aquarium net, mason jar of pond water for the journey home. There I talk to my pollywog, because I know it is lonely, and promise it will be going home soon. But first, to fatten up with fish flakes and spinach and perform magic before my commanding eyes. Come now the back legs, then the front. Before the tail is melting, before a frog swims before me. Before I fulfill my promise, before I return my frog home, before the hole in my heart can heal. And this is another one about my childhood. The title Ojo de Agua is actually Eye of Water, which I stole from the name of a swimming center in San Jose, Costa Rica, when I was there, when my father was teaching there this summer. All of the water from this huge complex was coming out of an underground spring. And they had a sculpture like an eye, and all the water would pour that into all the different pools. So I stole it for a somewhat similar, but in many ways not, poem. But that's the license of the poet. Ojo de Agua. When I was a boy, we lived in New England, near the ocean. Summers, we traveled to the Cape in our gray Plymouth station wagon. One year, we shared a big shingled house on the beach, 2 families and lots of kids. After pancakes or Rice Krispies, I remember my bare feet on a sandy planked floor, the bang of the heavy wood screen door down to the water's edge. Armed with brightly colored plastic buckets, matching plastic shovels, the whole day in the shallows, playing with the crabs, digging for clams and oysters, wearing our keds when we waded across the rocks to deeper water, watching abundant life in their rocky homes. Then, after peanut butter and jelly and cold milk, we'd be back. My sister keeping us organized, crouched in the wet sand, cluster of burrowing bright red-backed creatures in a bird's eye. Then, home at dusk and higher tide, to the adults' martinis and smoke. We'd stuff ourselves with fresh-caught fish, corn on the cob, and homemade ice cream. Then climb the stairs to the top floor, perfect room of bunk beds and screened windows, ocean breezes cooling our glowing bodies, ocean tides flowing in our heads, sand between our toes. We began our underwater dreams. This all came back. Older, on a lifeless Gulf beach of sand and wave, remembering rich northern waters, certain sadness of lost kingdoms. About 3 summers ago, I guess it is now, I did a vision fast up in the Rocky Mountains where you go out and for 3 days you basically just drink water and basically stay in one place. And it was an extraordinary transformational experience for me. And what was most interesting about it, which I didn't expect because I thought this was going to be a time of stop thinking and just be, which I did a lot of, but it also compelled me to write poetry. And I wrote a number of poems while I was up there. At first, thinking, I shouldn't be in my head, but then realized that this was really coming from my spirit and not my head, because as I settled into that fast up in the Rocky Mountains, right by a stream, it was just a gorgeous place, I think I became spirit. And that's where I wrote these from. So this one is a short one, but one of my favorites. I call it These Names We Give Them. They should name themselves, each tree, beetle, river, wind. These names we give them, do they say what they are? How they are being, hint of their beauty? I sit on a rock in the creek, sun-soaked, still, knowing some of their names, knowing it does not matter. These names we give them. So I often think about just kind of the, well, of course, during the pandemic, it's been different, obviously, though there's a certain, I guess, routine now we're in, a different one, never expected. But I always, I think about how people get up in the morning, we shower, we eat, we get dressed, and we go to work, and millions of people are doing that every day. And so, anyway. It inspired me to write this poem. I call it Fourth Sally. Wake up in a day shot through with beauty of light, sky, breeze, of no words. After proper repast of eggs and butter, toast spread with English marmalade, and 2 cups of black tea, I step ceremoniously to my all but self-driving car and join the procession of destination. Far around to sea, reflect upon bird's eye spectacle of trapped and escaping carbon below. To the working, schooling, and recreating, to the food, drugs, chemically clean shirts and skirts, to reunion and rendezvous. Teddy stretches to the open window, sniffing fair and foul, while a translucent yellow spider travels across the windshield. While I, in comfortable contemplation, Teddy riding shotgun, thank it for the reminder and worry it safely home. I'd call this one Tune In. Cicadas are busy in my backyard. Their 1,000 violins louder as the hotter sun rejoices for their recreating. In the moving canopy of leaves they play, enough at times to silence cars, tires, and minds, while I sit quiet in their a cappella. Horowitz said the human voice is the perfect instrument and European opera houses the place to hear that perfection. But there is perfection in the sound of cicada and cricket that woo us in day, soothe us in night. And those who plug up ears and eyes from the music of the wild with electronic banality someday may discover where it all begins. This is one I wrote recently, and it really brought up a lot of feelings for me. There are always those kids in school that got made fun of. Maybe you were one of them. I'm sure I was at different times. But there was usually one boy or one girl that just really got treated really hatefully. Or more, children can be so mean. So I wrote this about several children I remembered that were treated that way. This is called Kindness Less. Remember Gladys? She's the one in 3rd grade, the one easy to be mean to, because of what she wears and her buck teeth. Never says a word, she in silence, while the rest of us from superior places shun her most of all. So easy to blame, shame, for the fear each of us will be discovered by the rest to be unfit to fit. She comes every day to class, dresses everyone can tell her mother makes, hair like a bowl on her head with pigtails, and the girls stop talking when she comes around, and the boys snicker. Remember Jimmy? He lives across the street, a skinny, bony-faced boy whose father beats him when he's drunk. His mother dead of that rage, or so I now imagine. Then I was 8 years old, just arrived from Boston, the alien, scared most of the time. Just as he was of his father, just as he stands, crying, nose snot bleeding on our driveway, my older brother screaming at him to go bleed somewhere else. I wonder what happened to him. Did he blow apart leeches clinging on Asian soil, or like his exploding father, lay brutal hands upon his own children? It would be good to know he forgives his father, forgives himself. Bigger than the rage and fear, he loves himself and others. Breaking the cycle, his children grow nurtured, unafraid, loving him, as he loves, is loved by their mother. It would be good to know Gladys is happy wherever she is, that she looks straight in the eye at the pain, then moves on, that she makes dresses for her granddaughters, stuffed animals, braids their hair, and holds them close. Maybe at last she is going to her high school reunion. For Jimmy and Gladys, I choose to believe they are human beings rising, facing their wounds with strong, shameless hearts, as I try to do for myself, as I remember young Fear and Gladys and Jimmy carrying so much of it for the rest of us. You get a little choked up when I read that. Oh, this is one I like. In this, there are times when I get just so mad at human beings, including myself, because we screw up the world so much. And in my fantasies, sometimes dark ones, I imagine Mother Earth and the rest of creation getting even. And so this is sort of a tongue-in-cheek, dark attempt at that. I call this Bugged. It was the fourth case. No foul play, no witnesses. Ruled accidental deaths or suicides with nothing in common except the insects. One man fell or hurled himself through a closed upstairs window. Forensics found ladybugs splattered on the window frame, smeared on broken glass on the lawn. Midday on a dry road, woman struck a bridge, launched her body onto the asphalt. Her husband said she always used her seatbelt, but maybe she was on her phone and distracted, bothered by the ants in her mouth on her face. Farmer run over by his own tractor, crushed his legs, but it was the wasps that killed him. Thousands of stings, his head and body swelling like a giant crab apple. No nest found for miles. Fly fisherman slipped, struck his head on a rock, drowned in only 6 inches of water. Rod and reel flung as he fell, found face down, hair still dry, and everywhere dead and flitting dragonflies. Damnedest thing. So Jamie knows about these books I'm going to talk about here. Patrick O'Brien writes wonderful books about the Royal Navy, and my father first gave me one years ago, and I didn't read it because it was too dense, and I regret that because, and I'm going to kind of talk about that a bit in this poem. I call the poem Before the Mast. My father gave me a book I never read and gave away. Today, I read this book of many by Patrick O'Brien, of Captain Jack Aubrey and Dr. Stephen Matalan and the Napoleonic Wars. Their remarkable friendship, despite markedly different morals and beliefs. Thrilling adventures aboard the great sailing ships of the Royal Navy at war. But like the pressed boy, assigned as powder monkey, cowers under hostile fire, believe the book Father gifts me too dense, intelligent for my comprehension. I am awkward, too afraid to deliver in battle, to climb the rigging in storms. Know now, he believed I could, when I did not. Know the golden gift of it. Long to sit with him and talk of Jack and Stephen and irresistible life at sea. Rocked high in the rigging, looked down upon our tiny mates and blue-green spreading sea, and sprawled together forward the forecastle, looking back at towered sheets and sail, and Captain Jack, born to command, a crew happy to know it, sail on. And again, kind of going back to this whole thing about the arrogance of humanity, and these fantasies of Mother Earth finally saying, "You're done." Call this natural selection. The moon, pardon me. The moon drank too much last night. She went on a bender again, perhaps mourning for her mother below. How else explain these crazy waves, evolving tides rising, reclaiming all covered these million years, or winds raging down western canyons, bringing fire to cleanse the valleys of concrete, metal, and glass. These and other natural things are awakening, alarmed by the abuse of their mother, by these unnatural acts. While the bee gives and receives from the hyacinth, and the bear carries the thistle over the mountain to spread anew, these beings take but never give. Strangers in a less forgiving land, thieves stealing from themselves. They will give in the end, as they fall, gasping their life out, nourishing their abandoned mother with last breath, blood, and bone. So before I have to make sure that I read a poem about my dog and my cat. My wife Eileen said, "You got to," I read this to her. She said, "Oh, you got to read that one." And then, of course, because of to be fair to Charlie, Jamie knows them both well. I had to make sure I included him as well. So this one is called "Dog on Good." I raise my eyes and give him the plaintive look which always brings such a cutie, if not a scratch. And when I bounce around before sprawling beside him, get the best of all belly rub. The woman, she's pretty great too, except when she rakes my body with her brush or gouges goop from my eyes. And when I lick my crotch, she tells me it's disgusting and I should know better. But I think she's just jealous. Most of the time, though, we all get along, unless I poop, rarely, in the house, or keep them up on stormy nights, often. I have a good life here, saved from the asshole who kept me caged and preferred his hairless cat. His hairless cat? Preferred that hairless cat to me and his nice now ex-wife? Speaking of cats, I share space with one, double my weight, who doesn't look like an overstuffed liver sausage. But the way a cat is supposed to look. He can be weird at times when he isn't sleeping all day, but we play fight and he knocks stuff off the counter for me to eat. The woman takes me on walks so I can smell other dogs' butts, meet their humans, and pee on mailboxes, bushes, and flowers. The man usually takes me in the car so I can watch the world go by, and warmer days leaves the window open where I ride shotgun with my head in the wind. In fact, as often as they tell me what a great spoiled life I lead, sleeping in the sun, chasing squirrels, I wonder if they wish they were dogs like me. So that's a tribute to our Zushan, which is half Shih Tzu and half Bichon, rescue. And this one is for Charles Reginald, when we're really pissed off at him. So here it goes. So again, called Charles Reginald. Wise ones say, write a poem every day. And so I try this one. Looking around the room for inspiration, looking around my mind, while my cat Charlie, curled, sleepy, pale green eyes blink, giant yawn of teeth and gum before he stretches, saunters forth to survey his kingdom. I have lived since childhood with cats. As kittens, they're irresistible. As cats, amusing and damnable. Dogs evolve muscles for more expressive eyes to please humans. Cats don't. And staring back seem to say, if I were bigger, I would eat you. Sometimes I think Charlie thinks, even though I'm not bigger, I would still eat you. He is my honest adversary. How are we doing on time, Joyce?
20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay. Yeah, so here's another poem I wrote, a fun one I wrote when I was up in my, when I was in my vision fast up in the mountains. And I kind of had fun with this, as you'll see. I call this poem Dig. Not yet in rhythm, off key. I am jazz. Improvisational in my play, still reaching for the downbeat, auditioning for Mother Earth and the wild ones. Never went mainstream, never played charts, nothing ever the same. Tight. Mother tells me to cool it, says I've got the chops. All that's left is listen, says I'll find the beat. Oh, yeah. Again, this poem was inspired by walking in the woods in Radnor. I call this Silk Road. In a tear, find a story. In a walk in the woods. Come upon her glistening web with a smile for Lady Spider and a question. Do we fear her or the predator in us? Grieve for any when fear obscures beauty. Rejoice for any whose tear falls in soft explosion upon her silken throne. May it provide illumination for the next pilgrim. Now, this is another one I wrote about our trees that I love so much, some of which are gone now. I call this one Planting. There is a sugar maple in our front yard, topped by a tree surgeon, fatally wounded before we moved in. I've enjoyed this grand climbing tree for 30 years. Now, each spring, it musters ebbing strength, fat green leaves to those on our street, unaware of the scars and dying on the other side. Progression of weighty limbs lost in imbalance of time and wind. Tonight stands in winter midnight, a lopsided angel. Someone who knows these things told me it could fall on my house, that I should cut it down. Despite the butchery, stunting, sapping of strength to bend in storms, still cools our home in summer, colors our sky in spring and fall. There is still life there, and more, old friend. This is one I wrote about my grandfather. We called him Bappa. And, well, I'll let the poem speak for itself. I call this A Child is Born. Astride my ride, the sweet purring playing card engine in my ears, the gang roaring out of town on her next mission of mercy. This is what my grandfather gave. Raleigh racer with 3 speeds on the handlebars, dark purple pump snug in the frame, racing tires for finer balance in the heartland. All the way from England, and before, when we lived back east, boxes of peanut butter arriving, bragging to the disbelieving kids on Preston Road, eating their words to behold jars and jars on shelves he built in our basement. The coolest grandfather. Bappa, we called him. Hugs and lingering scent of mentholatum, bay rum, and Chesterfields. Spoiled his daughters, Mom and Shirley, but not his sons. Died after his appendix burst in the middle of the night. Didn't wake grandmother until morning. Gentleman to the end. Killed him. Back in Kansas then. Mom crying and the house charged heavy. Babysitter appearing. Dad hovers. Mom hugs. Goodbye. Years later, with Uncle John in a bulging scrapbook, minutia of John, my Uncle Bill, basketball handsome, popular as their pretty sisters, kept by their father, who never went to a game, saw the last steal for the winner, never said he loved them, save these secret pages. Later, with his grandchildren, buttery bowls of popcorn and watermelon smiles all around, master of the 16 millimeter, presenting Jack in the Beanstalk, happiest kid in the room. This is a poem I wrote as a father and as a son. I call Catching Up. He only wants his father to say, "Son, grab hold of that hammer, give the nail a few whacks." The boy takes hold with 2 hands, the tip of his tongue a pink flag of determination to strike true. Struggling to lift and swing, his blow glancing off the nail, he now grips this impossibility before the warm embrace of the big arms and the big hands cover his hands as one rise to strike once, twice, 3 times. See the 10-penny now flush against the wood. That is all sons want of their fathers. Love through their hands, heart. But not so easy for fathers who have fathers for whom it is not easy. A teaching those sons know is true because their fathers showed them, by not showing them, that they were unworthy. So those boys grow up with frozen hearts, become hard fathers. Those sons will never know their fathers would die for them. It's a poem I wrote that's very autobiographical because my wife, who's probably listening, knows this because I've read it to her. She knows it well. We had our son, and she had her career, and I had mine, and she hesitated to want to have other children because she didn't feel like she could be enough mother and balance her career as well. So anyway, I wrote this poem about the consequences of that. I call it Into Two, as in number 2, 2. You broke my heart that summer night, sitting on the steps on the front porch. You said it would be too much to have another child after the mother and you wanted to stay home with your firstborn. Just a little longer, despite your promising career. It was not right to turn your boy over to others so soon. You couldn't face that again. I did feel betrayed. You told me your first husband didn't want children, and you did, and I did. But you didn't know until later how hard it could be, so I forgave you. Still, tonight, I long for her. She would have your dark hair. I would hear her laugh like you laugh from the next room and be completely at her mercy. So you would be the heavy. We would name her Rosie, remember? She would be fiercely protective of her older sweet brother, who would no doubt do anything she asked. And she would charm her grandfathers and adore her grandmothers and have your very big heart and walk off into life, breaking my heart again one day. This is one I wrote some time ago, but about the commercialization of Christmas that I call Keep Running, Christ. Once I received a gift, given with a big build-up of how special and thoughtful it would be, only to be disappointed. A lesson in the widening space between giver and receiver. Now, an epidemic of joy to the world after Christmas swap-a-thons. More ghastly, Lawrence, than any electric blue Christmas tree. With the nose of Market Street in the air, soon calculate how much their love is worth. Stop agonizing over the perfect gift. Your dear one is going for the refund. So whether it's $100, $500 or more, give them what they've earned. We'll blaze across our digital glaze. Love for sale. I've been in a men's group for years and been in a lot of men's circles with Jamie and other good men, and this poem came from that experience. I call it Boys Will Be Boys. Men lie to each other. It brings comfort, though we don't know why. Speaks to our little boys, though we don't want to know why. We begin as fresh things, though many are beaten down by other beaten things into one dimension, then go gasping to what comes next. But inside, emptiness, where the boy lives longing for boyfriends to invite him out to play. We watch ourselves as we are told we become men. But it is boys that go to war, learn to become killers, come home strangers to ourselves, come home in agony, now raging, search for who we were, now husbands and fathers, batter and fry ourselves, our wives, our children. Where is the golden boy abandoned? On sacred battlefields of blood or relationship, in the foolishness of logic or consumption of social excrement, lost when this delicate, wondering being is told he must not be. So we stop playing, except hide and seek where we are never found. This is where we must go, to the cold shelter of our shattered parts, releasing and inhaling that secret boy, to teach the man to cherish all the sweet broken parts, to begin to live from the inside out. From fearless love of ourself, we can fearlessly love. Sit with other men and lie, say it was just so, and hearing our boy laugh again, invite them out to play again. I was in the Navy for 4 years and had some remarkable experiences. This was in Barcelona. This is called Meet the Parents. Hot night in Barcelona. Shipmate getting married when we go home, telling me about some young girl down the street. Special. I go see. She's there. Dark-eyed, warm, olive body, lush. Maybe 14. She takes me upstairs to meet her parents, who stand as I introduce my polite self, while she holds my hand, then leading me through white-laced French doors into her bedroom, takes my money and takes off our clothes, leads me to her bed and lies down, holding my hand. She beckons me onto her open body, as only a woman can do. After, with the time left, we talk about our dreams. I believe them all, while shrouded light, mother's soft knock reach out to us from the other room. And another one, this was also actually in Barcelona. It was a great town. I call this staying alive. Rarely went to a disco in the States, but none can match Barbarella's in Barcelona. Went with some guys off the ship, walking in with our civvies and Yankee hair, to the glares of the local boys in Saturday Night Fever. Cool Catalonian girls, and their I know you want to fuck me, not a chance, Catholic, crazy eyes. Stumbled down to a dark booth where we wait for the waitress to bring us god-awful drinks in plastic cups, filling up with Santana, strobes, and black glass, and an unspoken commitment to a pleasureless drunk. We lie to each other about what we are going to do to the women and watch them. Every man, child there, each completely fucking alone. But the music woos me. I stand up, walk scared down the stairs onto the empty glass, and the Tin Man starts to dance.
Dan,
Yep.
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay. Here's another one again about Radner, which I don't really need to do any introduction to because you already know kind of my attitude about Mother Earth and our place in the world. I call this resurrection. It comforts me to know this compacted path of earth, stone, compressed by thousands of feet encircling the lake, would, should they go away, soften in emergent wild grasses, wild flowers, homes for beings loving the land with more forgiving weight. The Oglala say, walk gently on this earth, because you walk on the bones of your ancestors. Go into the woods as you would go to the Grand Canyon. Magnificence awaits in all slow places. Oh yeah, this one I call Timekeeper. Read a poem about a man becoming a mountain lake. I have rested by one of pristine silence in Colorado. But I would become a river coursing through Tennessee farmland, currents slow in my deeper parts like a double bass, swift in my shallow parts like a piccolo. My shores are hickory, wild roses, eastern cottonwood blanket of white blossoms in early summer, limestone bed, cradle of rocks bathed smooth in passage, curly pondweed undulate upward to the light, brown trout in my deep pools courting dragonflies above, blue heron whisper glide to treetop homes. In milder season, welcome anglers, lovers, and poets. In winter, the farm boy risking all to skate to town. I attract so much life, death, rage sweeping all before me after heavy rains, slumber diminished in drought. I am an always place, promise of tranquility, rhythm and flow, resonant undertow.